The highly anticipated play-in tournament is underway, but has it lived up to expectations? I'm Madeline Burke for Sports Illustrated here with SI's Michael Pina and Ben Pickman. And Pina, what do you make of what we've seen of this play-in tournament so far?
I think for the most part, the games are enjoyable. There's actual strategy and rotation tinkering and individual matchups that really matter. And, they've drawn attention to the league and its upcoming playoffs, so that's great. But at the same time, while watching nearly all of them, it's hard to ignore the fact that most of the teams that qualified for the play-in aren't very good. So even in an NCAA tournament style elimination game, when it's played between a 9 and a 10 seed, the stakes don't feel like they're the highest because none of these teams are going to have any impact on the playoffs whatsoever, in all likelihood. Obviously, Warriors Lakers was an anomaly because there's two transcendent superstars in that game. But Grizzlies Spurs and Pacers Hornets are, I feel, a better representation of what the play-in tournament is kind of all about, which isn't the greatest thrill, but at the same time, it's better than no game at all.
Right. I think Michael made the key point that Lakers Warriors will probably be an anomaly as the play-in tournament likely continues, right? And this year in particular was really icing on the cake that was the regular season, right? It was this really special game and one of the best games of the year, frankly, and had a playoff atmosphere. But it's not something I think we can expect going forward of a lot of play-in games. For me, the validation of the play-in tournament is not actually in the product of these games, these four games and the upcoming games themselves, but in that all these teams, 24 teams with a month to go in the season, were still competing for a potential playoff berth. That teams like Chicago went for it at the trade deadline, that teams like Sacramento and Washington, New Orleans continued to compete down the stretch of the season. For me, all of that is way more important, and it made the back half, the final month of the regular season, so much more enjoyable that I can kind of overlook a mediocre game between the Pacers and the Hornets, or even a pretty good game between the Spurs and the Grizzlies. Of course, Golden State Lakers was a phenomenal game, and as I said, that's more of an anomaly, but it's certainly been an exciting addition, and I do look forward to it continuing down the stretch and what it means for the league going forward.
Well, and Golden State Lakers was only a phenomenal game because it was a phenomenal fourth quarter, right? Those first three quarters, it seemed like the Lakers were a bit complacent and Golden State was just running away with it. And then all of a sudden, LA was like, oh, yeah, no, we got something to play for right here. So I think that there was, though, to Ben's point, I do agree that it made the closing weeks and days of the regular season that much more exciting because teams and players were trying so hard to avoid being in this situation, being in a one game and you are done. And I mean, not a lot of people expected the Pacers to run away with that game as much as they did. But once it's that big of a defeat, it's like, wow, your season is over in a blink. I think it's a really interesting format. I think it's creating a lot of exciting wrinkles in the end of the regular season and in the beginning of the postseason. And, some of these teams could come out and surprise us, especially in the Western Conference where it seems like it's anybody's game right now.